Welcome back. This is our class number 14, 13, 14. I guess it's an expanded version. We have one more segment left for the digital imaging section, and this is the animation part. So we're going to be creating animations for web. It's the most funnest segment of my whole class. Most students feel that way. I hope you guys will feel the same. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen over and we'll begin. The files that you can use for this particular module are in the Photoshop module, of course. And you're looking at class number 14, motion design. We concluded all the website stuff, how to build websites in Photoshop for, well, design, right? How to design websites, prototyping them. We also used an example on Wednesday. I don't know if you were there in person, but we took a Photoshop file, we took it to XD, and then we made a prototype. So that was a really special little thing we did there, as well as the lessons are recorded prior. You can watch all the videos, how we build the actual project. That is your final project for this class. So make sure you submit it by the due date. I believe it's next week. Technically speaking, this is our last class, but since I have another segment to share with you, we're going to have a quick little meetup on Monday, next Monday. I know it's Easter Monday, but because we have Good Friday on Friday, we will have our last class next week, Monday. Usually it's like a, hey, good luck with your rest of your semester kind of thing. Sometimes we do presentations, show and tell. Since it is an online portion, I'm just going to do a quick lesson on some extra stuff I want to share with you, and we'll wrap it up there. Okay. So technically, we still have one more class after today. And of course, Wednesday, I'll see you in person. All right. So that's going to be in the campus. Um, so this is the motion design. You can download this file here. This is just an example of some stuff we did in the previous semesters there. So you can just get this file for now, motion design in Photoshop. It's called airmiles and aircanada.zip. Those are some resource files to work with. I'm going to save it on the desktop. Now, you have one more assignment for this class. Okay, this is like your, call it a quiz, exam, a test. This is something you have to do for this week. I'm gonna have you have this submitted by, I'll give you a week to do it. But if you can't do it by Wednesday, because I'll be there to help you in person, and this is our last chance to meet in person this Wednesday. So I suggest you come then and you get this finished if you have any trouble or you need some help. Otherwise, you can do it on your own and submit it by, I believe it's next week. And this is your final little, call it a quiz in class assignment. It's got to do with animation, with the new stuff I'm showing you today. So make sure you pay attention and you execute this last part. This is your, let's see, the main projects is, so don't forget the website project, the web page. This is the stuff we did in the past few weeks. This is due on the 21st, which is the last class next week. And the mini assignment that's got to do with the Photoshop module, it's over here. Where's the Photoshop assignments? Okay, so it's the motion design. Now I did put it's due on Wednesday. Okay, but I will change that due date for next week as well. But I think you should be able to do this actually by Wednesday. So why don't I keep it as is for now? We'll see where we're at from there. Okay, because I don't want you to overwhelm yourself with two things. Do this one you can do in person. Call it your, again, in-person quiz, or my other class just did it right now with me in one session. So keep it on the 18th for now, which is by the end of the week. Okay. What this is you're going to create a basic animation. I'm going to change the parameter. So it's going to be like a social media advertisement. Same one you did, except this one, you're going to make it an animation. So not the air miles. and Air Canada. What that means is I don't want you to do the one I'm doing right now. Pick a different theme, okay? Minimum of 100 frames. Motion design, tweening or frame by frame. Opacity or effect, tween, okay? And then the last thing you're gonna do is you're gonna do file, export, save for web, and you're gonna do GIF animate, GIF format along with Photoshop for submission, okay? So that's what you're gonna do. I'm just gonna do one more thing here with the size. Pixels. All right. So this is your like your exam or call it a quiz in my class to execute the following, and I'm going to give you the instructions this evening on how to do this. And Wednesday I'll do like a recap and a review, and I'll give you time to do this in class. And if you still need more time, you can do it by I think I gave you till Friday. Okay, so this is what you have left. And of course, the website was given to you a long time ago. That's your final project. This is like your in-class assignment. All right, so let's get to it. So what is this motion design for web? Well, you know already, if you look at some, animated GIFs, you know, promotions, you can see lots of stuff. This is where the money's at, okay? So if you want to create stuff that's more like accumulative in terms of getting some monetization or getting paid advertising, making some money with this stuff. This is where things are headed right now, especially with social media. Even something simple like this is effective, whether it's an email campaign or some kind of a social media promotion. This is a simple frame by frame animation. Of course, you have something more like this, okay, which is like a stock photo thing. And this is easy to do as long as you have the pictures there. I'm going to say this actually, it's a good little example. Okay, and I'll show you Kate Spade commercial on the desktop. I'll save that one. And stuff like this, you'll be able to do in Photoshop. Believe me, this is very easy to do. Okay. And the fact that you've done enough in Photoshop already in the weeks that we had ahead of us, um, and something like this is a really nice way to finish off the semester and the actual class for digital imaging. So you'll be able to do stuff like this no problem. Even more than that, you'll be able to produce an animated effect. Okay, so something like moving and some other cool stuff. Now there's more advanced animations you can use, but then that requires advanced programs. Like if you want to do motion design, you're going to be using programs like this might be done in After Effects, which is way more keyframe advanced, and you can do a lot more you know keyframes and advanced tweening methods and things like that. But stuff like this, even the more simplest ads are more effective. You can do them in Photoshop. This is why I'm showing you the Photoshop segment, okay? All right, and this is a very simple one here that you can produce just by having images. Right? All right, so how are you gonna go about doing these? And these are more like the cartoon animated ones. Okay. So how are we going to be utilizing these animations is the way you're going to produce them in Photoshop. So the exercise I'm going to demonstrate right now will give you the segue of how to get this done. All right, let's look at this example I got off the internet, the Kate Spade one. If I double click on that, if you're having a Mac, it'll actually give you the breakdown of all the keyframes already. So you can see this took 6 frames. And all it was is the graphics are done. Just a picture of the girl holding the balloons changes. So just integrating different frames of images in Photoshop can produce this animated GIF. Okay. And this is easy to do. And I'll show you this right off the bat. Well, you can do something more advanced and more complex with the tweening methods of Adobe Photoshop. All right. Um, Even the social media ad you did for me last time, you can convert that into into an actual advanced animation. Okay, just to show you an example of how to do that, I'll just dive into one of your projects here. So these are your Facebook ads that you guys did. Okay. Um, this is Shivani's ad, right? Is Shivani's here tonight? No, she's not. I'm gonna use I'm gonna use somebody that's here. I can use Carla's example. Okay. I can also use I can also use what did here. I think that's Yasmin, that's yours, right? I can use Yasmin's example as well. All these nice ads that you guys did, I can convert these into an actual animation as well. So whether I use Carlos or any one of your animations, I can produce this. I just don't want to pick favorites. So who wants to volunteer? Raise your hand if you want me to use yours as an example. Raise your hand. Carla? Okay. All right. So I'll use Carlos as an example. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and get your permission because it's your work after all. This is just an example I did earlier. All right. So if I was going to do Carla's ad, and I really like a lot of your ads that you guys did a great job. So if you got a grade of 80% and higher, that means you did really, really well. So, give yourself a round of applause. I think Carla, you did two versions. Okay, you did the this one here, and then we did this one over here. So I'm going to use the Adidas one. It's got a lot more elements. So this is Carla's social media ad. I'm going to open it up, and then moving these windows around all the time. Here we go. So when you open up an ad like this, first you have to have the breakdown that you guys did. So Carla did her Adidas logo in the corner. Then she did her vertical ellipses here, horizontal ellipses, really nicely done with a lot of detail. Like just again, like the rest of you guys did a good job as well. There's the shoe in the circle, and there's the background. So the way we can make this ad a little more compelling and interesting is we can actually tell a story and make it an animated form. Okay, so to do that, you do the design first, like Carla did, and you open up the actual timeline. Now, if you have an older version of Photoshop, it used to be called animation. Animation is no longer around, so it's converted to the timeline. So make sure you look for the timeline because when you open it up, it'll look like something like this. And you're going to drag this to the bottom. And the timeline, okay, what the timeline is the way you can spread out the sequence of an animation. I'm sure you look at YouTube and other players, time is presented from left to right. It's a horizontal linear fashion. Space, on the other hand, is accumulated vertically. So space is kind of accumulated going this way, vertical. Time is across horizontal. To produce the frame animation as we're doing right now, we're going to have to acknowledge this create frame animation button. So once you click on that, this will convert into like a thumbnail and it's ready to produce the animation. You have to start with a good storyboard. So a good way to plan the animation is perhaps to hide all these elements like this. So we're telling a story from a blank canvas. And then we're going to produce the frames to play into the action of the animation. By clicking on this button here, it's called duplicate the selected frames. When I was a lot younger, I used to do animations on notepads. I even used to do it on my books. I used to draw a little stickman figure, and every other page I would do it again and again. And by replicating this, I would produce an animation when you flip the pages, right? You know what I'm talking about? But that's very, very time consuming, and obviously it's pretty laborious if you want to do that, right? So here, page flip animation. Okay. Oh, friggin' ad, really? All right.
Are you kidding me?
There, right? So it's flipbook compilation animation. That's the kind of stuff we're talking about here, right? So, I mean, you can do that in Photoshop, but think about it. You have to draw every frame one by one and produce the layer for it. We're not gonna really, I mean, again, if you want to do something that you can, but it's a lot easier to draw it by hand, scan the pictures, then bring them in, and then play with the visibles, and you can produce that animation. The way we're doing this on a digital scale right now is we already have the artwork produced. What we're going to do is tell a story by producing one visual at a time. So, for example, the first thing we're going to produce is these ellipses. So we're going to go one, then we're going to produce another frame by clicking here. We're going to produce the next ones, two, and then we're going to create another frame. We're going to add perhaps maybe the shoes in this case. But we're not going to just produce the whole thing. We're going to open it up in steps. We're going to produce maybe first a circle. The circle has a drop shadow animation effect. So there's the shadow effect as well. So I'm going to produce the circle first, then produce the next sequence, and then the shadow. Duplicate the next frame, and then the shoe. Maybe the shoe and the shadow should appear at the same time because it might look weird if it's that and that. So what I'll do in that case is I'm just going to delete this frame, go to the previous frame, and have both visuals presented. So we're going to have the shoe and the shadow show up at the same time. Then we can produce the price. So here we're doing the marketing aspect, and we're going to show them, hey, this is what's happening. There's a sale on Adidas, and you get 10% off if you shop now. And you go to adidas.ca. Even this could be segmented into different parts, whereas I can have the website show up later, right? So I can have the shoe come in, the sale, and then the website and the logo can come at the same time. So let's produce another frame for that. And there we have the website and the logo come up together. And this now, with the 6 frames, just like the Kate Spade ad we did, it'll produce that storytelling effect where you have a visual. If you came Friday night, a lot of students did this in my other class where they presented their projects in steps. It just tells a story how this was designed. So you're not just looking at a picture, you're looking at the development of the design. So I find this to be very fascinating, a little more interesting when it's being presented. Let's press play and see how this unveils. Okay, so it's pretty fast right now, but you can see pretty much where I'm going with this. So what we're going to do now is we're going to just slow it down a bit. So right now it's set to 0 seconds, but if I hold shift and I select all these frames, I can slow it down by half a second. 0.5 means half a second. I can do it individually or I can do it one by one. So half a second will give me this result. Half a second, right? A little better, I think. What I'll do at the end with the shoe, I'm going to create another frame, right? I'm going to grab the shoe and we're going to hit Control T, which is rotate, and we're going to rotate it this way. Oh, it rotated the whole thing again. So when you want to do rotation and stuff, it's a little more tricky. You have to duplicate the layer and then you can do the movement. So let's just save that for the more advanced part, as I will show you how to do that as well. Since I'm already talking about it, I'm just going to show you quickly. Make sure this is all checked off. Basically, if you have new layers visible in all frames on, when I'm doing what I'm going to show you now, it's going to mess up the whole thing because the shoe will exist everywhere. So just make sure this by default, it's checked on. Just check it off if you want to do more advanced additions to your animation. So having said that, I'm just going to duplicate this layer. Duplicate layer. There we go. Duplicate layer. Okay. So what that means is now over here it's invisible, over here it's visible. I'm going to turn this layer to be invisible, and the new layer, I'm going to go ahead and do my rotation effect. So it's going to do a little kicksy. So it's going to go like that, do a little movement, right? And I'm going to repeat this back and forth a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and do this, and then create another frame and just hide this one and show that one. So it's going to basically do the little back and forth thing. And repeat it again a few more times. Hide this one, show that one. So the copy version is being rotated, whereas the previous version is back to the original setting. So one more time, I'm going to show this one, hide that one. And I think I'll stop there. It's enough. So we got 1, 2, 3 segmentations. So I got 10 frames. Okay. Now the last one, I'm going to pause it for 2 seconds. So it's going to take our audience and focus on the last frame. So let's play it right now. There's the visual, half a second each. And the last part, we'll have the shoe moving, and that's the ad. Now we can have it stop or play or repeat or whatever we want to do with this. You can tell it's a little more fun now than just having the ad the way it was before. This ad now has come to life. Now, to produce this for the web, first we save the Photoshop version. We always save the Photoshop file. So I'm going to call this Carla's Facebook ad. And again, I love all of your ads, and most of you guys did a great job with this. So I encourage you all to do the same thing if you want, or make a new ad or make a new theme with this if you like. Okay. It's up to you. I'll leave it in your hands. And I'm going to go ahead and save this on the desktop. Right. And then, as you know, not a lot of people have Photoshop and they can't open this. So how would you put this on social media? How would you put this on a website? How would you put this out there to the rest of the world? Well, then you have to go to File. Just like we exported a website in Photoshop, we can do Save for Web under Export, Save for Web. We can export the animated GIF, right? And the GIF is the only format that can basically encapsulate all this into an animation. Nothing else works except GIF. So make sure, my Photoshop does this sometimes, so I have to go back and forth. The colors selective or the other adaptive palettes work. The only thing with GIF, it only supports 256 colors. That means if you zoom in, it's not the greatest quality, but that's been like this for the past 30 years, probably more. That's how old this format is. Anything better than this, you're looking at video like MP4s and things like that, QuickTime. But if you're doing, even they can take movies that you see those, emojis and GIFs you have on your, social media platforms. You see funny memes for movies converted into GIFs, doing funny things. They're very grainy. The quality is not all that good. So GIFs look better with this than having like a real video turned into a GIF, right? So it's supposed to be simple yet effective, like I'm using it right now to tell a story. So that's why the maximum colors is 256. This is the color palette it perceived. We can control it to play forever. We can play it once, or we can play it only 3 times, as many times as you punch in. Just have to do this. If it freezes, just go back and forth. It just does that when I share my screen sometimes. So I looped it 3 times. Okay. I'm going to press play quickly to illustrate the output. And this should stop right there. If I press save, it's going to save onto my, desktop. Make sure you save images only. Don't do HTML. I know I showed you that last week. That's just for mockups for the website prototyping. This is strictly an animated GIF, images only, save. And now you can post it on social media, put on a website, put on a browser, whatever you like. Okay. Just to quickly show you what that looks like. I'll go over here. Okay. Well, here's the GIF, right? I'm just playing it as is right now. When you do a preview, it's not going to listen to the 3 command rule. It's going to keep looping back and forth. This ad will look much better if it's played once, by the way, just for the record. But I just did show you the control aspect. So you can play it like 3 times and 3 times only. In this case, you might keep looping because it's in preview mode. That's what Macs do. But if I drag it to the browser, like I did right now, any internet browser, it should listen and obey. If you tell it to play 3 times or put on a website, it should only play 3 times. So that's the second time. This is the third time. Stop. You see? So that's how the ad works. All right. Carla, what do you think? Looks much better, right? Great job, by the way.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah. So now you can convert your animated GIFs, I mean, your social media ads into animated GIFs. So that's just one example. Another example I'm going to show you now is to produce a much more intuitive animated sequence. This is all frame by frame stuff, which is pretty simple. But if you want to get more of the advanced motion tween level, then you'll definitely want to consider utilizing this next method I'm going to demonstrate. And that's going to be utilizing the sources I gave you on the course for today. Sorry, the module for today from the course page. So if you go down here to motion design, like I instructed you earlier, download the motion design in Photoshop segments, click on that, download this file, and then this Canada Goose Jacket promotion is another example. I just used Carla's. I like to use more recent stuff. That's why I just do things spontaneously. So, like you said, I asked who wants to do their project. Carla put her hand up first. I picked her project. I made an animation out of it. You see, just like that. So, if you want to do something like this, is another example I use right here. Just another frame by frame animation. Right? And we did this thing, make it tick back and forth. We just rotated each segment and stuff. Uh, we don't have to do this because I used already Carla's example, just a different idea. You can see all the layers here and all the things that we have. Frame by frame again is how this was done. So I like to show you something more advanced now than those basic frame by frame animations techniques. So for that reason, I want you to open this file I asked you to download, which is the Air Miles with Air Canada file from the website. So download that. And you can extract a folder. And this folder will pertain an airplane, an Air Miles logo, and an Air Canada logo. What all these things have in common is Air Canada used to be in partners with Air Miles. Right now, it's partners with, I believe it's Aeroplan. So it's Aeroplan miles. As you know, there's a lot of point systems out there with credit cards and merchants. And every time you shop at a certain, you know, brand name or retailer, they give you points, groceries and credit cards and that kind of stuff. just to incentivize the customers to spend more money. It's a big program and it's been running for decades now and it's still doing really strong. So why not create a social media ad based on this theme itself? Now, as I mentioned earlier, you're going to produce this on your theme. I don't want you to do air mouse. Let's just, it's going to be a little boring to look at because I already am using that as an example right now. So rather than doing that one, I want you to pick a different theme, not the air miles and the Air Canada, please. And you're going to do 100 frames. So it's a lot more frames than what I demonstrated. I'm going to show you now I'm going to do all this right now, basically. Okay. And like I said, Wednesday in person, I can help you if you need help, do this in class to get it done. And it's due Friday. So I'm giving you as much time as you need. And again, this is your last little in-class assignment, or call it an actual exercise assignment that's due for this class. Okay, it's out of 10 points, so I want to make sure everyone does well on top of the website that's due at the very end of the semester. All right, so let's go ahead and utilize these sources. Utilize these sources to do the animation. I apologize, I'm under the weather a bit, so if I have a little bit of a cough remaining, that's because of the Friday, I think, from last week. I should be okay by Wednesday, though. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. All over the place here with my screens. So we're going to start with the new file. And the new file is going to have the same dimensions as we did on the Photoshop file. So we have 1080 by 1080 pixels. Let me make this a little bigger now that I saw it there. Okay. So if that's the case, then I'm going to make this 1080 by 1080. The resolution is always 72. Please make sure it's pixels, not anything else, because it'll destroy your computer. And RGB color mode, white background, yes and yes. Okay, there it is. We're doing this Air Miles Air Canada theme, so for that reason, I'm going to generate some clouds here. I could change this foreground color to blue, which I already have, because I have blue and white. I could go to filter and render clouds. This will render a random cloud effect based on these two colors. And I can keep doing that until I get the right cloud formation. I can also, let me just clear this. I can also press Command A or Control A, select the whole document by doing Select All. Okay. And then utilizing my AI integrated prompting bar. So my contextual taskbar, which is the AI generated fill, I can type in realistic cloud background, okay? Realistic cloud background. The better prompting you do here, the better it'll generate the outcome. So let's see what happens here when I do realistic cloud background. Not too happy with this one, that one. This one's a little better. So I'll go with option number 3. Of course, you can generate more or less options, and this is okay for now. Once I'm happy with this, I'm going to go to layer, flattened image. This will be now my last choice. I forgot to also convert this into a frame animation. So make sure when you do this, you click on this button, because we're doing a frame animation. Next week, which is our last class, I'm going to show you how to do a video animation, and that's the last thing you'll do. So for now, it's frame animation. Click on the button, and off we go. You should see a little thumbnail show up here on the far left side. And make sure when you set this up, you want to turn off this new layer visible in all frames. One of these is on by default. I can't remember which one. I think it's this one. Just make sure there's no check mark affiliated. This way it'll make things a lot easier when you want to introduce new graphics along the way. Okay, so now that we have our background, let's start introducing our cast. The first one is we're going to go File, Place Embedded or Linked. I like to use linked because then I can replace those with something else later. So it's a good option to have. So we're going to go Place Linked. We're going to select the Air Miles and Air Canada file here. I'm going to select the Airbus, which is the airplane. I'll make it a slight bigger and maybe rotate it. Press Enter and move it all the way here. Because what I'm going to have do is the airplane is going to fly right across the stage. Okay. And I'm going to have it start here. I'm going to go down here and produce another frame by clicking on this button. Once it says duplicate frame, it's like duplicate the page. And then what you do is you make the adjustment. You duplicate the page again. You make the adjustment. You duplicate the page again. And you get my point, right? You do it again and again. I mean, you might spend a few hours doing this or a few minutes, but it'll be the time best spent because you're going to produce an amazing animation. It's better than read. Can you imagine what they do in the cartoons? They have to draw the page again all over from scratch. Now, there's more modern techniques and software out there, especially with 3D animation. You can do it with more, sequencing and stuff. But traditionally, they had no choice but to redraw the whole frame over and over again. I'm sure you remember the old cartoons, right? Let's press play here. This is what that produced, okay? A volatile flight experience. So I already showed you frame by frame. I did it with Carla's example earlier. Now I did it with this airplane. What I want to show you now is a more advanced technique. Look, I already produced 19 frames. So I'm going to select 19 all the way to frame 2. I can't delete frame 1 because that's the beginning, right? So all the way to frame 2, press the little trash can and delete everything and start again. The reason why I'm starting again is to show you a more advanced way to do this animation. The way this time I'm going to select my position here. This is the beginning. I'm going to produce another frame. And instead of going frame by frame now, I'm going to go all the way to the end. So it's going to go to here. So from here, fly that way. Look, we have microprocessors, computers, software. There's got to be a smarter way to do this than doing it one by one, right? So by doing it this way, it gives you the more advanced option for the software, Photoshop, to recreate the frames in between to make it look like it's flying from A to B. To do that, you have to select both frames. You have to click on this tween button. You have to be very careful. Click on that little. Now, tween stands for in between. It's an old derived term that I used to even teach back in the days. We used to have Flash and other software. Even today, the most advanced, sophisticated programs use tweening methods, how you make keyframes tween in between the keyframes. So when you click on this, Photoshop will give you the same option to tween, which is in between the frames. How many frames do we want to add? I want to do a nice smooth transition. So I'm going to do 25 frames. 25 plus the 2 here will give me 27 total. Well, why didn't I do 28? Then I'll get 30. 28 in between plus the 2 is 30. So I'll have 30 frames total. And this will create the position. That's the parameters. Opacity and effects. That means the position is the one that will be the parameter focus this time around because it's going to move the airplane from here to there thanks to these parameters that are being checked on. The next one I'll demonstrate is opacity, and then I'll show you effects. I'm going to show you all three of these, how they work in conjunction with this tweening method. Let's go ahead and try this for now. Press OK, and magically you'll see all these frames create, as I mentioned earlier, from frame 1 all the way to frame 30. The airplane now is flying by itself. Call it autopilot, if you will. Let's press the play button, and that's exactly what's going to happen. It's a lot more smoother, and you can generate a lot more frames this way. Okay? All right, so now let's see what happens next. So it's like telling a story. You go right to frame 30, what the end is, and then you produce another frame, 31. At that frame, I want to move the airplane out of the way so there's no visibility. I'm just going to clean it out. And then I'll produce another new frame. Notice how I'm using this button constantly here, producing frames. And then I'm going to introduce the new cast member, which in this case, it's going to be place linked. Let's introduce the Air Miles logo. Just the size. Now keep in mind, you can't do scale. You can only do motion, effects, and you can do opacity. So for this one, I'll do opacity because what's going to happen is from here to there, the logo is just going to pop out at you. Well, we might want to do a more professional introduction, like a nice fade in transition, like it comes from an opacity perspective, uh, you know, translucency from a 0 to like 100%. So in order for that to happen, I'm going to start with this. I'm going to duplicate this frame. So I have this one and that one, 32 and 33. And now I'm going to go back to 32. So from that to that, I'm going to produce the opacity to not really 0, maybe like 10%. So I can vaguely see it from here to there. I'm going to again use the tween method I showed you earlier, only this time it's not going to be motion, it's going to be opacity. So let's select the last two frames. So this is how it's done. The last two. In the beginning, I only had two frames. Now I have 32 and 33. I'm going to click on this magic button here called tween, and I'm going to produce 28's too much. That was good for the airplane moving. For this just to fade in, fade out, I'm going to produce a good maybe 13 frames. I like fives and tens. So 13 plus the 2 will give me 15 frames total of this logo fading in. And that'll cover the opacity parameter. Now notice how I leave them all checked on. Doesn't hurt because I don't know what I'm going to do next. I just play it safe and leave them all on just in case. So all you have to do is just acknowledge this and not do anything. Just kind of follow my lead here. Press OK. And now let's see what happens as we press the play button. We already have the motion of the airplane, and we have the Air Miles logo fading in a nice professional manner. Okay. These days, I mean, with marketing and social media, a lot more companies are investing in video than images. It's a lot more, people are a lot more in tune with this stuff. They even did like the analytics and stuff, and they did a lot of studies and videos a lot more. Look, why I think TikTok is worth like, huge amount of money because it's videos, right? So people are attracted more like to videos and motion design, and that's what grabs people's attention these days. So this is why we're doing this, right? So we're gonna go right to the end here, right? Well, now we're at frame 46. So now I want this to fade back out. So I'm gonna go back to produce another frame, 47. Maybe I should pause it for like a few seconds. So this one I'm going to pause it for 1 second, and then I'll have it fade out after. So let's do another duplicate. Now don't forget to check this back to no delay because you don't want to have 1 second repeat itself. It's going to be very, very slow. So back to only 1 second is here because it pauses for a second. Then it's back to 0 seconds and then another frame. And from here to there, I'm going to produce the opacity to 0. Okay. So from here to there, it's going to be 0. So I select 48 and 49, hit the tween button, and now I'm going to produce, let's do another 13 frames. Okay. Okay. And that's going to fade right out. So now what I produced was this. Airplane flies away, Air Miles logo comes in, stays, fades back out. All right. So the next thing that I want to happen now is to introduce the other cast member. So for that to happen, I'm going to produce another frame. This is 63 now. I'm going to go to File. I'm just going to turn this off for a second. turn these off, just to make sure they're visible. I'm going to go File, Place Linked, and introduce the Air Canada logo. Now, will this abruptly just show up? I guess so. We can also have it come in. Maybe I'll have it come in from left to right or right to left. Maybe left to right's better. So I'm going to produce another frame. So I have 63, 64, and 63. I'm going to move it all the way here. And 64, I'm going to have it. So it's going to move from left to right. Okay. So I'm going to shift select those two again. Tween. I'm going to do 13. I like that number. Click OK. So if I press play now, it's going to produce the logo coming in from left to right. Okay. So then it's going to pause. Going to pause for a bit. Let's produce another frame. This is called the pause frame. Actually, no, it's gonna do the glow. Never mind. So let's produce another frame, like I said. I'm gonna double click on the logo here, and I'm gonna add the effects. Remember this one we did back in a few weeks ago? We're gonna do what's called an outer glow. An outer glow means you're producing this glowy effect. So it's gonna be glowing like this, right? So to produce that, I'm just gonna keep it very minimal. So I'm applying the effect, but very minimal, okay? Just like that. Notice how the effect is not here. It just applies over here. So it carries over only one. Let's produce another frame. And on this one is where I'm going to double click again, click on the outer glow, and enhance this glow effect. Just remember, this is the last parameter. First, we did position. It's the airplane moving or flying. The other one was opacity, which is the air miles logo, fading in, fading out. And this is effects, which is like, effects and styles, glows, drops, all these are effects. So I'm going to use this outer glow effect to produce an animation out of that also. So from here to there, I'm going to go ahead and double click. I'm going to enhance these parameters by increasing the spread, the size, like that. Right? Very, very out there. Okay. So from here to there, right? So I'm going to select these two frames, hit the tween button. 13 works, that's fine. So now it's going to glow more and more and more. And you see this effect on movies and special effects. And then it's going to glow out. So I'm going to go another frame. And this one I'm going to double click and have it minimize again to before. So it's nice and subtle. Like that. So from this to this, I'm going to tween again. So it's all about doing it in twos. Every time I do something, I select the last two, I make the change, I go back to tween, I do number 13 again. Look, I'm at 106 frames already, okay? And then I'll just have that move into the left. Let's press play. Position, opacity, effects, motion, effects. Okay? And I didn't like how that ended abruptly. So I'm going to push it from here. Okay, I'm going to produce another frame. Turn off the effects. Produce another frame. And just have it go all the way across stage. So from here to there. Okay, so let's select the last two again. Hit the tween button. I'm going to do 12 this time, just to have an even number. Press OK. My total number now is 120. So I have a 120 frame animation that I just did, all in this one example. And I'm going to save it now. This is the air miles promotion animation. Okay. I'll save it as a Photoshop file. First and foremost, always save your Photoshop file because that saves the animation in case you want to go back and change something, right? And in case this is missing and you're looking at the file saying, what happened to my animation? Well, that's because you have to remember that that's an animation or not. It's up to you to do that. And secondly, when you go to Window, open up the timeline, you can see you have an animation right here. So always double check in case you're not sure. Okay. So now that I saved the animation, let's output it for the web. To do that, I'm going to go to File, Export, Save for Web. Making sure my stuff is all working out here. Perfect. Photoshop's been acting a little clunky with me today. There we go. So same thing, GIF, selective, whatever the settings are here, they should be okay most of the time. 1080, 1080. How many times I want to play this? Forever. I can also tell it to play like 3 times or something. So forever and ever, okay? So forever and ever, save, images only, save to my desktop. Now it's going to take a little while. Don't forget, this is like a movie almost, right? It's 120 frames. It's 1080 pixels, 1080 pixels. It's almost 10 megs. Like it's 9.2 megs. Now, 20 years ago, this was a no-no. What's wrong with you having a 10 megabyte animation was no, you can't do that. Now with I mean we got gigabytes, terabytes. A megabyte isn't anything. 10 megs is not gonna break anybody. But there's still websites that have limitations. So I would err on the side of caution by using this on most websites. You might maybe it's more like a social media thing instead of a website. So just want to do a website, do something more simple. That's what I'm saying. Okay, so let's see what this looks like now. There's the airmiles.gif file. It is 9.7 megs. There's a quick little preview what it looks like. By all means, let's have a look at it on the actual browser. So by going to the browser here, let's drag it in here and let's watch the real deal. All right, and that's how we're promoting this whole segment here. Air Miles, travel more with Air Canada, and that's it. All right. Now next week I'm gonna do another little, animation segment. I'll do a video next time. I'll show you the video timeline. But this is as far as you can take Photoshop. You can do frame by frame, like I did earlier with Carla's social media ad example, or you can do something from scratch, bring in your elements, prepare your graphics, and make an animation like this one. All right, the choice is yours, and you can do either or. And this is your last assignment, in-class assignment, call it a quiz or exam or whatever. I don't give you guys exams in my classes because it's a creative class, right? So it's mostly done by projects and assignments, and this is one of your assignments that you have to do by this week. All right, so I hope that was clear enough. I'm going to stop the recording now because I do want this to be uploaded soon so you can watch the video step by step. And I hope to see you Wednesday in the in-person class. It will be our last time we're going to do an in-person session. So I hope to, if I haven't seen you in the past few weeks, hope to see you there. So I encourage all of you to show up, especially if you want to get this thing done. Otherwise, you might have a little bit of a problem. So please come Wednesday, okay, to see you in person. And that'll be, we'll wrap up the semester then. Monday is like our last class, technically. We'll do a kind of like a goodbye session, and that'll be it for now. All right. So that wraps up today's class. Hope you guys had fun. This was a really interesting part of the Photoshop program, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now. I'll be back. I'm just closing the recording session. Okay, give me a second here. All right, see you soon.